Hey guys, it's Miss Saunders, and today we are going to review what we read in the medicine bag and also talk about your graded worksheet for the week. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the back of this worksheet, the plot diagram, and if you are paying attention correctly and you have this paper in front of you, maybe you'll find some of the answers as I'm talking through this. So real quick, a summary of the medicine bag. We have our two super main characters. There's a bunch of people involved in this story, but our main characters would be Grandpa. This story is mainly focused on him, and our narrator, Martin, which is the grandson of Grandpa. So in the beginning of this story, Grandpa lives on the reservation. He's lived there his entire life. He is a Lakota Indian and Native American. Grandpa knows that he is sick and that he's in his final days. And so because of that, he makes his way to the city to visit his last living descendants, which would be Martin and his mom and their family. As Grandpa's making his way there, Martin sees him coming down the street and he gets embarrassed. Martin gets embarrassed because he's reflecting on the things that he said about his grandpa before, the stories he's told his friends, and he's told his friends that Grandpa's actually super cool. He's a hunter, he has all these cool clothes and all these cool hunting stories, and he's super awesome. And when he sees Grandpa walking down the street, he kind of sees this, raggedy looking old man who's sick and delirious and has these kind of raggedy clothes. And so he gets embarrassed thinking, oh my gosh, this does not look like the Grandpa I was talking about. And so in the very beginning, in our rising action, Martin is embarrassed about his culture and his heritage, and also his grandpa. We're moving towards the climax, and the climax of the story is actually when things change for Martin, the turning point in the story. And that would be when Martin comes home from school. His friends make his way to the house and they see his grandpa, and his grandpa actually looks super cool this time. He's brushed out the feather on his hat, he's brushed it off, he's wearing his beautiful beaded moccasins, and his shirt is pressed, he just looks better. And so because of this, his friends pull up and they're like, wow, your grandpa is so cool. And so in this moment where Grandpa has the attention of all of Martin's friends and they're so amazed by him, Martin realizes that his culture is actually really cool, and so is his grandpa. And so that is our climax of the story, when Martin realizes, I don't have to be embarrassed about my culture. It's actually really cool, and my grandpa's really cool too. And so after that moment when Martin has realized that this is who he is and his culture, and he becomes more proud of it, we descend into our falling action, which is when Grandpa is getting closer to that day and he shares the story of the medicine bag with Martin. Grandpa sends the rest of the family away, and so it's just Grandpa and Martin, and he tells him the history of the medicine bag, how it was created, the different things within the medicine bag, and also what each of those things mean. And this story isn't just important to Martin's family, but it's also important to the culture and their people as Native Americans. In a couple different classes, we talked about why telling stories is really important, and that's a big thing they do in that culture, so that those stories are carried on, and no one forgets what happened. It's still in our falling action, and Martin is again accepting all of this and proud and honored to be part of this. Big change from the beginning. We move into the resolution when Grandpa finally passes, and Martin is able to officially receive the medicine bag and take it to the reservation and fill the medicine bag with the sage, which symbolizes that the bag is now officially Martin's, but also that his grandpa has passed. And so now this responsibility and this honor is on Martin. And this story is really cool because it teaches us that we can be proud of our heritage and where we come from. Okay, now let's talk about the front of this worksheet. The front of the worksheet is going to be a little bit tricky for some of us. Now, I've said this multiple times before, but for these questions, you're going to have to actually look at them and sit and think with them for a second. These answers are not going to be directly in the textbook. So let's talk about them a little bit. Number one, when Grandpa gives the medicine bag to Martin, it's more than just a gift. If you explain that to me right there, why is it more than a gift? What does this gift mean to these people? That right there is explaining what it symbolizes and what this symbol is to not only Martin, but also the generations before him. What feelings or tone does the author create through this symbolic act? Tone just means the emotion in your words. So what kind of emotions and what kind of feelings are being portrayed throughout this story? Number 2, in the story, Martin is on the reservation putting sacred sage in the medicine bag. What does this action symbolize? So I actually told you this answer in the last part of this video whenever I was discussing the summary and the way it ended. So if you were listening, you should have picked up on that. If not, you have to try and figure it out. Number 3, Grandpa travels a long distance to visit his family, even though he is very old and weak. What might Grandpa's journey symbolize about tradition, family connection, or respect for this heritage? So again, you're thinking about the tradition and the family connections. How does Grandpa connect his generation to Martin? What is the thing that they both share? And you could say the medicine bag, but give me a little bit more than that. Give me what the medicine bag means and what the transition involved, right? It wasn't just Grandpa giving Martin this medicine bag. There was more to it than that, and that's the kind of stuff that you're explaining. Why was it so important for Grandpa to make his way to Martin and give him this medicine bag? All right, I hope everyone's being awesome, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I'll be back on Monday.